Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Sports Medicine, offering services for sports injury and recovery, with physicians and athletic trainers who provide treatment for fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and other sports-related issues. More information on services at stalphonsus.org.
Boise State Public Radio, because of you.
Well, I feel if you're listening to it even occasionally, you're reaping the benefits. And I think you really need to think about what the world would be like without public radio, without this very different format. Just think of what the world would be like without that. For me, it was a pretty clear-cut choice.
We do it because of you. Thank you for your support at BoiseStatePublicRadio.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's daily news. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. Idaho election officials are scratching their heads over President Trump's new demands on voting by mail. Athletic Club Boise is getting set for its first ever home opener. Plus, they sine-died. Is that a verb? They sine-died over at the Statehouse yesterday. It's Friday, the 3rd of April. Here we go with today's stories. After a legislative session defined by bitter budget debates, the Idaho House and Senate have now adjourned for the year. And as he has for the entire session, this morning, James Dawson has our top story.
The last few days at the Idaho Capitol have been a flurry of paperwork, long nights, and flared tempers at times. Several bills from the House were left by the wayside as lawmakers left town, like a last-minute push to allow concealed firearms in areas of courthouses. Several House Republicans, like Representative Rick Cheatham, supported the bill, but only because they say they didn't want to cross the National Rifle Association.
I'm going to ask you to vote no on this bill. I'll be voting yes because I can't oppose the NRA, but I don't like this bill at all.
The House passed the measure, but state senators declined to give it a hearing. The Senate also rejected a bill that would have allowed the Attorney General to potentially bounce local elected officials from office if they break the law. Legislators will reconvene next January, barring any special sessions called by themselves or the governor. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
It is known across many parts of the U.S. as Idaho's bathroom bill. It is indeed the measure signed into law this week by Governor Brad Little that criminalizes trans people from using restrooms that align with their identity. There have been protests this week, a sit-in at the governor's office. Late yesterday, there was what was called a pop-up queer resource fair in downtown Boise, an event where people in the queer and or trans community could share information on what's been happening. In response to HB 752, the bill that did become law, local advocacy group Trans Affirm is launching a crowdsourced map where anyone can report the location of gender-neutral restrooms safe for trans people in Idaho to use. One of the organizers is Scott Rulin. He says the goal is to remove barriers for trans folks who already may be hesitant to be out in the world.
We're going to do everything we can to meet our basic needs. We're going to do everything we can to stay in community and build up this community because you should feel safe being trans in Idaho.
So this is new, and since its initial call-out on Thursday afternoon, Scott Rulin says the organization has already received a lot of responses.
Some people have even linked us like Google Docs and spreadsheets of bathrooms which they have found are safe because they've just been naturally keeping track of it because this is kind of where we're at in Idaho. We're at a point where trans people have to keep track of what bathroom is safe in order to exist in public life.
The goal, he says, is to compile data from across the state onto a map. The law goes into effect on July the 1st. President Trump issued an executive order this week on mail-in voting. The president wants a federal list of eligible voters by state, and he wants to only allow the Postal Service to send ballots to those approved voters. As Troy Oppie reports, election officials here in Idaho are working to understand how that just might apply here.
Secretary of State Phil McGrain says Trump's order won't apply to the upcoming primary election because May 19th is before the implementation timeline outlined by the White House. But McGrain didn't comment on the validity of the order, which election experts say goes well beyond the president's authority.
Election rules are set by states unless Congress decides to override state law. for congressional elections specifically.
That's Ohio State University election law professor Ned Foley speaking Wednesday with NPR. In a statement, McGrain says his office is reviewing Trump's order to see if and how it would impact Idaho elections. He says his office also asked its federal partners how the Postal Service and Department of Homeland Security will implement some of the proposed changes. Separately, Idaho was sued Wednesday by the Department of Justice over the state's refusal to turn over voter roll data the Trump administration demanded. McGrain previously said the denial is based on concerns of data privacy. In Wednesday's statement, McGrain says he has confidence in Idaho's elections and the state's efforts to ensure secure and accessible elections. Troy Oppie, Boise State Public Radio News.
This is the weekend that thousands of local families have been looking forward to. Athletic Club Boise will welcome its fans to a new stadium tomorrow for its first ever home opener. And head coach Nate Miller told us that his roster reflects the sport's global influence.
We have a very diverse team, amazing. We've got guys anywhere from Ukraine, South Africa, Kenya, all over the country, in the U.S. as well.
Of course, we'll be watching for Eagle native Blake Bodley. He grew up here in the Treasure Valley. He used to play for the Portland Timbers. Now he's a middle fielder for Athletic Club Boise. And then there are the team's international players, such as Philip Mayaka, a native of Kenya, who's now getting used to Idaho.
I feel like it's a good state, and I'm happy to be around like friendly people.
Tomorrow, of course, a sold-out home opener at the new stadium. The game will be televised on KTVB Channel 7. Now, coming into tomorrow's game, Athletic Club Boise has had a 1-win, 1-loss record with their first two games on the road. A quick look at the schedule. The Boise team is on the road after tomorrow's game. They'll be taking on AV Alta in Lancaster, California next week. Then Boise is back home on the 18th of the month. Then a full schedule that stretches all the way to late October. Tomorrow's game gets going at 7 p.m. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Predis. I've got a sit-down with the creative team behind Macbeth, which will open up the new season of Idaho Shakespeare Festival. You can visit that at boisestatepublicradio.org. I'll be back here Monday. I hope you will too. Thanks for listening.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.